And one of the things that I stress is that ego kills talent. You know, I've seen a lot of bands help bands start, and just created so much ego. Kind of like what gets to them is that, yeah, we're a Native American metal band, but they kind of forget, like, hey, you got this whole roster behind you.
No one said that life will be easy. Are you alive? So many, bang your head.
Seen and worked with kids that, like you mentioned, that don't have fathers, and you know they're looking for that outsource. They're looking for that love, that compassion, that teaching.
As I was thinking of this question, I was thinking of that movie, Selena.
Oh yeah.
In the very beginning, that the father's talking to his kids. Obviously, they're Mexican American. It's like the context of, you got to be more Mexican than the Mexicans. You got to be more American than American.
It's like you can't win, or you can't find that balance.
Yeah, and you top it off that as a Christian, also being American, the whole history and everything. And then, you're a father.
Yeah.
You're a husband. It's just layer after layer.
Yeah.
How do you navigate through all of that? Welcome back to Whatislife.blog. I am your host, Charles Horace, and today's guest is Darius Yazzie. All right, Darius, how have you been?
Busy. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like a working man, huh?
Yeah, always on the go and all.
All right, well, Darius is a good friend of mine. I've known him for, since 2009-ish?
Yeah. Roughly.
Okay, cool. All right, well, you know what? The main questions or the main topics I want to focus on is fatherhood. But before that, let's go ahead and get to know you. So who are you?
My name is Darius Yazzie, of course. I'm a father, musician, manager, born and raised out in Coolidge, New Mexico. Right now I live in Theroux, New Mexico with my wife, Candace, and our 3 kids. Yeah, that's been busy.
Yeah. So you're a dad. How long have you been a dad?
5 years. Yeah, my oldest is 5. He was, I guess what they call him is a COVID baby, because he was born right in the middle of COVID. So born at a crazy time. I mean, there was it was an experience. Not having so much family around, not so many visitors and all. As you know, it was hectic, and mostly everyone was grounded. Definitely changed my life, in a good way, of course.
Yeah. Okay. And then you also have 2 new little ones, right?
Yeah. I got 2 twin daughters, Zyra and Xylia, Yazzie, about 3 weeks old today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you think you were going to get twins?
No, not at all. When Candace and I, we were talking about expanding our family, after our oldest, Zyron is his name. We went to our first ultrasound appointment, which was about maybe a month after we found out that she was pregnant. We were just in shock to find out there's 2 little ones.
Yeah.
And, it's a blessing. It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
But I enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you're a girl dad now.
Yeah. So definitely it's different than, of course, having Zai. I call him Zai, my son. He's already got his own personality. He's in kindergarten now, and
okay.
He's pretty much my little tail. But with the girls and all, it's I'm pretty sure we'll get there too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Was being a dad something you always wanted to be?
It just was kind of one of those things where it just happened. Candace and I, we dated since high school. We met at Rehoboth, and we got married in 2018. I know she's probably going to get after me for not knowing the exact year, but we got married 2018, and we always were working with kids. We worked with St. Bonaventure School in Theroux, worked with students, worked with our youth at our church. We had a youth group going, and it just kind of came to where, we wanted to raise our own. Yeah. So, thus became Zyron, first. And I couldn't say, it was always part of the plan, but nonetheless, it was God's plan.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's how he put it. So
Okay.
That's how I like to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. I believe fatherhood is a very big thing. And, you do see an absence of fathers. You said you worked with kids and you've probably seen that in families.
Yeah.
And it's not that, a child without a father doesn't do well in education, but it does make a difference in any person's life,
Oh, yeah.
Did you have a father figure growing up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my dad, Edmund Yazzie.
Okay.
So, always been there. From day one. And, he's taught me everything that I know, everything from music to tools to, how to drive and, golf. I mean, everything. We did everything together. And he's always been there, and I've had a lot of, our disagreements, especially in the music.
Yeah.
He's my drummer, so, but that's to be expected. And, but we always come back together, and that's what brought us together was the music. He was, I think for 15 years, he was a cop.
Okay.
For the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
So, majority of my elementary, mid-school time, that was what he was doing. Taught me how to be clean, how to keep my room clean, and my at the time my truck. Of course, at that age, you're just kind of like, you're just being unfair, or you're just being, typical cop. But now now I know why he was like that. And kind of my late mid-school years into high school, that's when he got elected through the Navajo Nation Council.
Oh, okay.
Did 16 years with that. And that was just, something that's really, really, treacherous. And it had its ups, it had their good moments and all, but I mean, it just, seeing him, the strongest guy that I know, get attacked by the community people and, the peers and the other council, it's hard to keep your mouth shut. And, so I was in a way glad, that he lost his last election, because it was just getting too much.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad that my son, now he's able to spend time with him more. And now my daughters. So,
yeah. Okay, cool. So he seems like a very well-established guy, kind of set the bar high. Yeah. How does that look like as you being a new father and looking at that from your own experience?
Definitely want to, I can't be him exactly, but I want to, come as close.
Yeah.
So, with working, we have cattle. So, working with fencing and, all that he's taught me, and I want to relay those teachings to my kids. And just a lot of moral ethics to where how, as far as my son, how a gentleman should be, and how he should treat women and how he should, be respectful. And as for my daughters, I want them to know, pretty much to have self-respect. Yeah. So especially with this crazy world we're living in.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's a man of faith. I mentioned how we got into music. He had this Christian alternative rock band when I was growing up. So I was born and raised in the church. My two late grandfathers on both sides were pastors. So, that's, like I said, I just want to be as, I can't be him exactly. But, just come as pretty close.
Yeah, no, I know exactly how you feel. So you come from a family of pastors.
My late grandfather on my dad's side, Edgar Yazzie, he was a pastor out in Coyote Canyon Baptist Church. For as long as I can remember, affiliated with, kind of the Baptist churches around the Crown Point area. And that's where, of course, my dad is from, Crown Point. And so spent majority of my childhood out there too, helping my grandfather and my grandmother, my aunts and all. And on my mom's side, was also a pastor, Joe Silversmith, and was a Navajo co-talker.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, he had his own church out in Coolidge. But once he retired or, kind of let the church, go, he saw that I had an interest in music. And so he let me have the building that we have, for kind of like a a music area.
Yeah.
So that's where we practice. That's where we, get together and just jam. So, he just told me keep the building, as long as you, keep the music positive. So, for the kids and the youth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said Coyote Canyon. So what are you Maidishkijini or is that?
You mean like clan-wise?
Yeah, clan-wise.
No. Tashitni.
Tashitni,
Yeah,
okay.
Tashitni, Nishla Toglini, Bashishni, Deshitni, Aroshanala, Torachitni, Shanala.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but I know a majority of our family on my Yazzie side,
Okay.
we're from Crown Point and Standing Rock and Coyote Canyon, that area. So,
Okay.
yeah, kind of all over.
My great-grandmother, she was originally from Coyote Canyon.
Oh, yeah?
But they traveled up towards Tsaili area.
Oh, okay.
Wheatfields area. So
Yeah.
that's
Cool.
where, that's kind of like, that's home for us, not Coyote Canyon, but Tsaili area.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, she was Maidishkijini, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I was trying to see like the similarities between Coyote Canyon because it has the word coyote in it, and then Maidishkijini, so Coyote Pass clan. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Cool. Being a Native American, do you see does that have an impact on who you are as a person, and then also who you are as a father?
Yeah. I mean, of course, I'm proud to be who I am, Native and Navajo, to be precise. Watch what I say here, but my teachings, are not so much of the traditional beliefs, and I mean that with all due respect, But I of course I'm proud. I'm proud to be the Ne, and like I mentioned, my grandfather was a code talker, and I knew that the language is important, and I do my best to still learn, the language, of course, and but I don't really like to use the native. How would you say the native, to get my way, and to get what I want, in this world that we live in. I know it's kind of sensitive, but that's kind of where I stand with how I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, like I think just being Native American, just being Navajo, there's so many layers that comes to that identity.
Yeah. And I know some people, they kind of have that mindset of, well, I'm Native, so I deserve this, or I need this, but to me, I was, raised on you work for what you want and you work for what you get. So if you want, what it is that you want, you earn it. Yeah. So that's kind of how, where I stand.
Yeah. I was like, as I was thinking of this question, I was thinking of that movie with, was it Jennifer Lopez, the movie Selena?
Oh yeah.
In the very beginning, that the father's talking to his kids. They're Mexican American. It's like the context of you got to be more Mexican than the Mexicans. You got to be more American than Americans.
It's like you can't win or you can't find that balance.
Yeah. And I mean, and you top it off that way as a Christian, know, and then there's obviously dualities in that area too, as being Native American and Christian.
Yeah.
And then also being American, also identify as American too.
Yeah.
The whole history and everything. And then, you're a father. Yeah. You're a husband. Like, it's just layer after layer.
Yeah.
How do you navigate through all of that?
Prayer.
Okay.
Yeah, just a lot of prayer. I mean, there's so much pressure with everyone, not just with me, but, I seen and worked with kids that, like you mentioned, that don't have fathers. And, they're looking for that outsource. They're looking for that love, that compassion, that teaching. And, when I worked with a few, kids that come to mind, I did the best I could to teach them. But then again, it's like I'm not their father, but I can teach them what I learned. And, majority of it, I always tell them is that you gotta stay strong in your faith. You gotta be strong. And one thing that I learned, what kind of like came around to was that, it's my will versus God's will. And that's where, I kind of find sometimes it's hard to say, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want to happen. But then again, sometimes it's not how it goes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, a lot of prayer, a lot of faith, and just a lot of hard work, pretty much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
you know, as you said, you have 3 children, and they're going to be growing up into this world.
Yeah.
And it's a lot different than when we grew up, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like we were growing up just on the cusp of technology and you know, internet. And,
Yeah.
you know, we grew up in the MySpace era. Did you have MySpace?
Yeah, I remember MySpace, and we were actually just talking about it, my coworkers and I.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, Candace and I, we always, you know, we were just kind of like surprised about how technology has evolved, and you know, her brother Logan, you know, has lived with us since 6th grade. And now he's attending for his first year of college at GCU.
Hey.
Yeah, so we were, you know, it was a few times, you know, we ask him, hey, do you know what this is? And we show him a portable CD player. And he's like, no, what is that? And like, you know, and but things like that, you know, and yeah, it's crazy. I mean, how things have really changed.
Yeah, it's you know, it's everywhere. Cameras are everywhere.
Yeah.
Devices with where you can listen on people are everywhere. You know, podcasting is also a new thing. That's just, there's almost no place to hide in a way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary if you think about it.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's just true, because back then, you know, we could settle our disagreements with one another in person, but now it's jump to the phone or pull the camera out, start recording, you know, and, post it, you know, and then it's just, it's crazy, you know. It's kind of. When
I was, I'm a substitute teacher.
Oh, okay.
And I was subbing a class, and this one kid, at the beginning of the day, I was looking over this one kid. He had free time, and he was on his Chromebook, and he was on YouTube or something, and he was watching a channel called Teacher Crash Out. And what that is where kids will get out their phones, and as soon as a teacher starts, you know, crashing out, like, you know,
like flipping out.
Yeah. They'll start recording it, and so they have a whole page dedicated to that. Yeah. And it's just, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, well, it's a good thing I didn't lose my cool when I was a teacher. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy, you know, and that's kind of as my field of work, you know, I tell my drivers that, you know, you always got someone watching. And even though you're doing such an awesome job, or you're doing a good job at what you do, you know, there's always going to be those people that are just waiting, you know, to catch that mistake and, you know, make a thing out of it. Yeah.
I remember another class, one kid was doing his really best to get me to do that, just really to flip out. Like, he was just,
like testing you.
Yeah. But like, I don't know, my prayer is like, don't let me yell at these kids. You know? I'm like, because one, they don't need that. They don't need yelling. They don't need more of that.
No. And I had one student like that. You know, I was a teacher as well at St. Bonaventure. And I had this one kid, you know, he was in, I think the time in 6th grade or 7th grade. And he came into the class, and the teacher was just like, had it with him. Yeah. And she's like, you know, you're not going to, if he's too much, just send him back or send him out, kick him out, whatever. I think he wanted to know how far he could take me. But I told him, I said, hey, man, you know what? I was just like you in mid school. You know, I did the same thing. I said the same things, you know, but you're not going to break that with me. And ever since then, we've had that line of respect.
That's good.
And even to this day, you know, when I see him in town or whatnot, you know, he's so respectful. And, you know, so it's good to, I mean, I think that's what the kids need sometimes. Is they just need someone to be on the same level as them, you know. And, but yeah, so, you know, that's it's crazy.
Do you think, so you spent some time as a teacher. Do you think that has given you a little bit of preparation, a little bit of training as in discipline-wise?
Yeah, you know, I feel like it has. And then also, like I mentioned, you know, we had Candace's brother live with us, Logan. I think he's moved in with us when he was about, I want to say 12 or 13, right at that teenage, you know, age. And I was only maybe, like 20, 21 at the time.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So, you know, it was an experience, you know, to kind of be, how would you say, like, be his friend, but then not, you know, be the friend, because you're also there to mentor him. You know, so as far as discipline, and, you know, as soon as he got of age to where, you know, he can have chores, you know, it's like, hey, man, you know, this is, if you're going to stay with us, this is what's expected. You know, dishes, you know, take the trash out, things like that, you know, and I always kind of saw it as the more if you yell at them or you raise your voice at them all the time, it's not going to go anywhere.
It's going to tune out.
Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of how I went into it, you know, preparing. And even with my son, you know, Aaron, when he, you know, as crazy as he is, 5 years old, he's already kind of got a little attitude. And, you know, but I know with him, you know, I just tell him straight up, you know, you got to stop. You got to knock it off. You know, you're not being respectful. When he does something he's not supposed to do, you know, then it's like, well, how do you think that makes me feel? Or how do you think that makes your mom feel? You know, and he understands.
Yeah.
And how would you say, you learn as you go. Yeah. And I've made mistakes. You know, I've, my patience has run thin sometimes, or I just come home and I'm completely, you know, on edge and, you know, but, you know, that doesn't mean I don't, you know, I still make sure that he knows that I'm caring and I'm loving to him. Yeah. And, you know, and he knows that. Yeah. So.
And you're married now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
How's that?
It's good.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, Candace and I, like I said, we've known each other for a long time. And, you know, as every relationship does, you know, you have your ups and your downs and your, you know, your trials that you go through. But when it comes to marriage, you know, it takes it a step up, you know, with everything, the responsibilities, you know, and I feel, you know, like more closer than I did than the time we were dating. You know, she's been there through so much of my crap and, you know, with my mistakes, you know, that has happened. You know, she stuck it out and we worked things out. And one of the things that really brought us together was, you know, our faith, you know, our Christian faith. And when we decided that we wanted to get married, you know, we both went to counseling, marriage counseling first. And, you know, that really set our priorities really, really, really straight. And, you know, and yeah, you know, you still have your disagreements, you know, and you still have your, you know, tired days or whatnot. But, you know, in the end, I mean, that's, you know, I always tell her that she's my best friend. So, you know, she's the only one I can tell my problems to that understands. And, you know, she's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. And you guys been married for how long?
Like I said, she's probably going to get after me. Well, so Yazzie is 5, so I want to say about 7 years.
About 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years.
So, okay.
You know, got married in Peru. And, you know, it was a crazy day, you know, and I remember we got married there at Peru Baptist Church. And the day of the wedding, you know, it just packed out. I mean, it was, you know, so many people. You know, we didn't expect, you know, that many people. And
cousins and aunties and uncles. And
and, you know, family from my side in Albuquerque, you know, came out from her family. And, you know, some of them in Phoenix came out.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, it was an awesome time. You know, one of the best things I remember from that day is we had our grandparents there. And, you know, now, unfortunately now, you know, we don't have them. But, you know, it was a good day and busy. You know, we didn't even get to eat at our own reception.
That's usually how it is.
Yeah, you know, and it was just a day of memories. I mean, it was awesome. And, you know, to this day, it's still awesome. Yeah. And we're, you know, blessed, you know, and we still, you know, of course, care about each other and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, the twins is just...
Yeah, the twins, you know. And I feel for, you know, Candace so much, you know, during these past, you know, 9 months. And, you know, I know it was a big test, you know, not just physically, but mentally, you know. And, you know, when we talked about expanding our family more, you know, of course, we were only expecting 1, you know, not 2. But, you know, I give her so much credit, you know, for doing it. I mean, it was so much work on her, you know, physically. And I just felt, especially near like the final few weeks of, you know, the pregnancy, it was just, you know, I just felt terrible. And, now, she's still, recovering, of course. And, but, she's in a better area than where she was, a month ago. And, but yeah, I give her so much props and so much credit, and any, woman that has to bear, labor and all. It's just, that's something that you and I will never, of course, experience and know. But, it was, I'm just glad that she's okay, and, we're making progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that elevate you to know that you have 2, 4, 6 little eyes, possibly 8 if you include her brother, looking up to you now?
It's how would you say, not so much intimidating, but in a way, it is. Of course, being that example, for my son and for my daughters and Logan, it was a lot of, don't do this, of course, with Logan. And a lot of past experiences, explaining to him that, hey, I did this and this is what happened. You're kind of headed down the same road. If you stop now, you won't have to go through what I went through. So, and he knows, and he's really strong in his faith too. He's really strong in his beliefs. And he was also his grandmother and his grandfather, who sadly passed, but they raised him in church too. So he knows. And as for Zai, I know he's only 5, he's little and all, but it's pretty cool to see him take interest in some of the things that I had interest in when growing up. Such as like Monster Jam. Yeah. Now I grew up. My dad took me to my first Monster Jam down at Tingley Coliseum in Albuquerque. And now when I take him, it's just like, wow, that's that kind of like sums up fatherhood right there. Is to see him interested in what I was interested, and to have him experience that too. So of course it's always trying to give them the best, giving them more than what I had. So so it's going to be interesting.
So now that you have these little ones, how are you, obviously that kind of probably pushed you to look for a job position that's higher pay, more steady, more stable, and that led you to what, like a transportation manager?
I worked at fresh out of high school, I didn't know what I was going to do. I kind of had an idea. I was stuck heavily on music. I wanted to go to a Musicians Institute down in Los Angeles. Okay. Do something with audio engineering or lighting design or something like that. But to me, reality kicked in. And I had a few end jobs here, out of school, and then I grew up with trucks, pickup trucks, and pulling trailers, and like I mentioned, we had cattle and all. And it was my dad that told me, you're really good at backing up, trailers and pulling with trailers, and why don't you go get your CDL? And I thought about it, and so I did. I got my CDL down at NTU, down in Crown Point. And got the job at St. Bonaventure. The original plan was not to be a bus driver. I trained on a full-size rig and all, and that was the goal. But it was hard to find a job in this area locally with no experience. And what I found was, a bus driving job down at St. Bonaventure, my old school. And in between the school days, they had me delivering water to the community, to people that didn't have running water. Oh, okay. And so I was doing that. Met a lot of people.
Was that during the COVID years or?
Before.
Before.
Yeah,
okay.
Kind of before. And it was an eye opener. To of course to see people still with no running water, even like within 10 miles outside of Theroux. I mean, one of the biggest, not biggest, but one of the most crowded communities on the res, have no water. And, so that was an experience to do that, every day, in the dead of winter, in the hot summers and all. Yeah. And, so I did that. Then they put me as a teacher because we were there was a shortage on teachers. So I did that, still kept the bus driving. And I just wanted to change, I wanted to change. And I felt there was a time when I felt like I didn't want to cheat the kids out anymore from my teaching job. It's just, I kind of, I don't want to say lose passion, but, it just, I wanted them to have a teacher that was into it, what I mean? And, so, I was in talks with at the time, the transportation director at Rehoboth. We're always communicating with traffic jams and whatnot. And, and he told me, I was kind of frustrated with my work at the time. And I remember texting him and, telling him, hey, I'm kind of thinking about leaving. And, he goes, well, how would you like to be in a manager's position? And I'm like, no way, really? And, this was about maybe February or March of that year. And, he just said, let's keep talking and let's see where things go. So, I, prayed about it, of course. And, the summer came around to about maybe, I want to say in July of 2023. And, he called me in for an interview, did the interview, and, got the job.
Hey.
And, it was, I was already kind of sub-managing at St. Bonaventure, dealing with parents and making schedules and, helping with payroll and accounting and all that stuff. But here, of course, it's a step up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're the boss, and you're not just the assistant to the regional manager. You're the manager.
Yeah. Have you been a boss prior to that?
No. Just in my band. But, not as far as work, but that leadership teaching, has always been there from my dad. And, of course, seeing him as to what a leader should be. And, of course, dealing with bosses and always having that mindset to where, if I ever become a boss, I ain't going to say that. I ain't going to do that. That policy is stupid, and putting things like that. And, my mindset there was just to put my staff before me. They come first, not me. So, and being there for them, all the time. But so that's kind of where I ended up, as the transportation manager, I guess you could say. So,
yeah, interesting. Yeah. You start off with one way, you think you this is what you want, and then God's like, nah, we're ready to do something else.
Yeah, and I, the idea came to where, okay, if this whole CDL thing doesn't work out, because I didn't want to just leave, Canis and at the time Xiron, and as easy as it was at the time to just, say, hey, I'm going to go become a full-time truck driver. I'll see you guys, as with the amount of years I had with experience at the time. My prayer was to have something local, something to keep me close to my family. And of course with the band and everything too. So, like you said, it's funny how it works out. Yeah. And, but plan B for me was, okay, if this don't work out, then, I was considering state police.
State police, oh.
Yeah. So, that was plan B.
So you're also a musician, right? You have a band?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's the band?
3 bands.
Oh,
actually.
3 bands, really? Okay.
So my, I call him my baby, Testify. Formed in like 2010, 2011 in high school. At the time, a lot of people thought it was a joke and thought it was funny. And, but, here we are still doing it with, and, it's grown so much to where it surprised me. My dad and I were the only original members left in the group, but, the music still stays the same. And it's my number one priority in terms of music is Testify. Kind of saw it as a joke and saw, well, you ain't going to go anywhere and it's just going to be a res country band, and all that. But in a way, this is like my way of saying, explicit words, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've been, featured on Sirius XM a couple times, with our songs and opened up for a lot of bands that I listened to, growing up, which is, pretty crazy to share the same stage, same show, meeting people, traveling. So that's that's the good things that come out of it. I
was listening to one of your songs. You guys had former President Inez on there.
Yeah.
How did that? Well, what's the story behind that?
That song, Here We Stand, that was a song I wrote when after my dad was done with his election,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and Here We Stand was one of our, you know, kind of like, you know, stick it to the man
Yeah.
type song, you know, with the government.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was getting frustrated. You know, I was getting tired of, you know, politics,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm not one to write about politics or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that, but this was one song I wanted it to, you know, stand out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I wrote it, it was kind of like in the middle of COVID with Jonathan Nez, you know, of course, with my dad being in council and him being president.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because when Mr. Nez, President Nez, and my dad both lost their elections,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we went into the studio to record the record.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I was kind of thinking, it's missing something. You know, I just want, there's one more thing I want, you know, just to stir the fire, you know, just to tick people off, you know. And I asked President Nez, I said, hey, you know, can you put like a little dialogue here, you know, kind of like not blaming the people, but, you know, just kind of like saying, you know, hey, sucks to be you know, and kind of that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it came from. You know, I told him, I said, the attitude is kind of like, yeah, I'm better off now than where I was. And he was unable to do it like where we recorded. So what he did, he just did it on his phone.
Okay.
And then sent it off to the studio, mixed it in and all that. And that's where it came from. So
Okay.
in a way, it's a big, you know, and I wasn't really expecting that song to blow up, you know, but when I look at our stats and everything, you know, that's kind of one of our most played songs, and it's the crowd gets into it, you know, especially the chorus, you know, the chanting and all. And
well, yeah, of course. I mean, President Nez, everyone loves him. You know?
Yeah. So, you know, and that's the song that comes up a lot when, you know, people ask about our latest record release.
You're talking about kind of like the process of creating a song. Walk me through that, because I don't know how that looks like. I've never made a song.
So, you know, where I kind of make my start is guitar work. You know, I've always been a fan of two guitar players, you know, bands like Metallica and Iron Maiden has 3 guitar players, you know, and a lot of dual, you know, going back and forth solos and all. So when I, you know, come kind of like create a riff or something, I try to make it to where, you know, it sounds doubled or it sounds powerful, you know, with melodies and all. I didn't take music, well, other than high school band, you know, so I didn't really know too much about notes or keys or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of, you know, improvising. And I always had help, you know, with the first 2 records that we did. I always had help from my other guitar player at the times. But with this last one, you know, I don't want to say it was all me, but, you know, I kind of just based the riffs around something I've been working on, you know, in the living room or in the, you know, at the band room or something. So it was a lot of like digging out old recordings and just kind of like layering things over it. Lyrically, the first 2 releases that we did were kind of, to me, it was like, you know, weren't really experienced, I guess, if that makes sense. Nothing really bad happened to me at that time. You know, no one really ticked me off or betrayed or anything like that at that time. Everything was, oh, you know, everything's good, so I'm going to write about this. And but with this last record, you know, living life, you know, losing friends, you know, being lied to, being betrayed to, you know, not only by friends, but, you know, by, you know, like I was mentioning earlier, like politics and, you know, the government and just complications everywhere. That's when the lyrics really kicked in. And that's why I say I'm really proud of this last release, because to me, it feels real. The guitar works are real, you know, just pure heaviness, you know, and lyrically, you know, like we have a song called Walk of Sorrow, and that was based on The Long Walk. And in a way, we were being recognized, of course, as an indigenous metal band. So along with a lot of bands in the area, it's like, okay, so how do we kind of improvise that or enforce that, you know? And so that's why I did, you know, Walk of Sorrow. This Life is a song about, you know, just really feeling down in a dark area. Like there's no way out. I wrote that when I was at that point, and didn't want help from anyone. Didn't want it from Candace. Didn't want it from my parents. Didn't want it from the Lord. Didn't want it from anyone. You know, and that song there is really, you know, to me it hits. Even though I'm out of that time right now, but when we play it live, you know, my goal is that whoever hears it, you know, will come out of it too.
Yeah.
So, you know, Rage, that song has a mixture of inspirations.
Yeah.
Everything from zombies to, you know, to self-aggression, you know, self-evaluation type. So there's a lot of good songs, you know, but that's kind of where I came lyrically. And with the first two records, you know, I kind of used to tell my dad, okay, this is the beat. This is how I want it to be. But this last one, you know, I kind of just like let go of the reins and said, okay, here's the riff. You play what you feel.
Yeah.
And that's what you hear. And that's why I like, you know, it feels like I really let go, you know, kind of to some control to an extent. It came out really great, you know, and I had a new guitar player, still is in the band. His name is Nick. And we play in another band called Born in Winter. And, you know, I asked him if he wanted to fill in as a lead player, you know, and same thing, you know, the first two records, it was kind of more like I want to do the leads.
Yeah.
I want to do the guitar solos. But, you know, with him, I wanted him to shine too. So most of those leads that you hear is from him. And, you know, it was kind of an album to where everyone shined in their own way. So, and I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. And it's on Spotify, right?
Yeah. Spotify, iTunes.
Yeah. Just plain Testify, right?
Yeah. Testify 01, because there's a lot of other bands called Testify. But yeah, you know, Testify 01, and the latest EP is called Rage. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And it's primarily like heavy metal, right?
Yeah. Pretty much all metal. You know, and I was mentioning I played in 3 other bands. The other band I was asked to join was Born in Winter, formerly known as Creeping Puppets. So Creeping Puppets, they were before Testify, and I think they started like in 2008 or 2007 or something like that. I started off, you know, I got to know the guys, you know, Malcolm, the drummer, you know, he does graphic designing. So he was the one that handled all our flyers, all our album designing.
Yeah.
And, you know, the music they had is completely different than Testify. You know, it's more heavier, more technical, you know, and like Lamb of God, Devil Driver type feel to it. And as to Testify, it's like kind of like Metallica and, you know, that sound era. So, you know, I helped them out with filling in for their guitar player who was out of the state for a while. And their bass player left the band because he committed to work. And, you know, so I became their bassist. Yeah, but right around the same time Candace and I got married. So about 7, probably going on 8 years now with them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's different playing bass, you know, and but it's fun, you know, and the music style is completely different. So the third group, we formed, this one's it's a funny one. It's a Metallica cover band.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we call ourselves Phantom Lord.
Yeah.
So, you know, that started during COVID because we couldn't really see each other. So when we did, it's like we couldn't have a full jam session because other people weren't able to be there. So the only things that we could play was Metallica, you know, and yeah, so we're like, okay, well, let's just, you know, do an hour of this. Yeah. And it was fun. And then we got around to saying, why don't we take this out? You know, why don't we take it out on the road and see what happens? And, you know, we've, I think we've done at least about 4 or 5 shows as that. And it's fun, you know, it's fun. It's a lot of work, you know, trying to play someone else's songs. And there's so much expectation, especially from Metallica, you know, everyone wants you to play it the right way and sing it the right way. But, you know, it's fun.
They performed at the Navajo Nation, right?
No.
What was the other one?
I was probably Megadeth.
Oh, Megadeth.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rival band of Metallica.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Did you go to that one?
No. I see Megadeth a handful of times.
Okay.
You know, and I did hear about it, but I didn't attend that one.
Oh, okay.
Although Metallica almost did come.
Really?
Yeah, from hearing sources from President Nez and my dad, you know.
Yeah.
But the question was, well, what's more important, the money for the improvements around the reservation or paying out Metallica?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But that's where kind of how the music came around.
You said earlier something about being an indigenous metal band.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Like, does that label put you in a box? What are your emotions about that? Because I was watching a video with the rapper Lecrae, and at that time he didn't like the idea of being called a Christian rapper because it put him in a box, and it just didn't allow him to be expressive and creative in the way that he wanted to be. Yeah. As opposed just to being a rapper.
Yeah. I guess in a way it's just the same, you know. You know, that's what people ask us, are you a Christian rock band with Testify? I mean, and that was a hard one to answer. You know, we're not a Christian rock band, but we do know what we believe in. As far as indigenous, you know, that I know, I don't know if it's cocky to say, but, you know, when it seems like after we kind of kicked that door down with an interview that happened with New York Times. Yeah. You know, that kind of, how would you say, it kind of opened the door for a lot of people on the outside to see, hey, there's indigenous or Native American metal bands, you know. Down in New Mexico, Arizona, California, wherever, you know. And from there, it seemed like it kind of just blew up, you know. Things started, publicists started coming out more, you know, not just with us, but with other bands. Revolver magazine, you know, did a whole deal on it. And, you know, Sirius XM picked it up during their Native American week that they do with Ian Christie. You know, he has a show that he hosts called Bloody Roots. All right. And, you know, he did a special on Native American bands around Thanksgiving time. And, you know, featured a lot of bands, you know, from the Navajo Nation, from the Apache Nation, you know, a lot of everyone. You know? And from there, like I said, it seemed like it just, you know, blew up. And, you know, as far as kind of like gatekeeping, I don't really see it like that. Okay. You know, in a way, it's pretty awesome, you know, to see. I know there's a lot of promoters in this area that have brought bands out that were kind of like an eye-opener. You know, like Anthrax came to Winter Rock. And then Megadeth came, Testament, Lamb of God came to Farmington, you know, and Devil Driver, you know, so many bands came through, and, you know, them interview, they're just like, wow, you know, we never knew like this part of the U.S. existed, you know, from there, it seems to be just growing still.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think metal bands are so big with Native communities? Or is it just the youth in general?
I think, you know, and I know a lot of youth are taking into it. And where I was, you know, for 15, 16 years old, you didn't hear of these bands coming through town. Yeah. But now you do. To me, it's just blowing up, you know, and my hope is to see that there's still bands that form, you know, that keep up what us old timers started, you know. And one of the things that I stress is that ego kills talent. You know, I've seen a lot of bands start, help bands start, and, you know, just created so much ego, you know, and I think that's kind of like what gets to them is that, we're a Native American metal band, but they kind of forget, like, hey, you got this whole roster behind you. Yeah. You know, and my hope is, you know, that it still continues. Yeah. You know, and with the youth and, you know, music has kept me out of trouble. Yeah. Kept me out of jail. You know, never did drugs. I know for some people that's hard to believe. Never picked up the bottle, you know, but, you know, music has always been there for me. I just hope, you know, that the kids continue to do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Looking forward into the future with your own kids, you know, as they grow up, how do you think that's going to look like?
As much as I would love for them to, you know, keep it going, you know, I don't want to pressure them, you know, and I know, other than music here on the reservation, sports is another thing. But as long as they're into something, that's all I ask. Yeah. You know, and, you know, my dad, he teases my son and my daughters now, and he goes, well, they have this drum kit and they, you know, and, you know, I I have a collection of guitars, you know, and I tease Candace, and I'm like, sorry, but none of them go to you, you know.
Yeah.
Now they're all going to them.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's pretty awesome to see when you in the middle of a concert or you're doing your thing up there on stage, and you turn around and you see your son backstage with his headphones on, you know, just watching you. You know, that's a different feeling.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty awesome. And you know, one of the shows that I really remember the most was we played in Albuquerque, and the stage is really high off the, you know, the ground and all. And, you know, we were in the middle of our show and all, and I turned around, my son's sitting back there behind the drum kit.
Yeah.
You know, he's just watching. And, you know, I have a picture with him sitting in my guitar case. You know, that he was that small where he just was sitting in there just watching with his headphones. And, you know, I hope, you know, that's, of course, my hope is that, you know, they carry on what I started, even if it's something completely different. You know, if it's not metal, I hope it's not country. But, you know, as long as it's something musically.
There's some good country songs.
Yeah, you know, that's you know, another conversation I won't get into, but you know, but yeah, you know, I would love for them to keep it going.
What the music preference for Candace? Does she like heavy metal too, or?
When I met Candace, no, she wasn't into metal, and that's a funny story. You know, she was full on hip hop and you know, everything, but I took her to her first metal show, Sunshine Theater, Devil Driver, and Arch Enemy. Yeah, and she was hooked after that. And you know, she started understanding like how time changes were and keys and all, and you know, we went to so many shows together. You know, funny enough is that when, you know, I started, we started after we put this last record out with Testify. You know, we didn't have a bass player. And no one wants to play bass on the res. Everyone wants to play guitar. And, you know, I was teasing her and I was saying, you should play bass, you know. And like, she goes like, well, you know, I don't think so. And I was telling her, and I said, well, you took high school band with me. And it's just the same thing, you know. Yeah. And you know the notes, you know the times, you know, yeah, that coordination to be able to hold a beat. So she started helping as kind of like a sub bass player. And then when my bass player had to quit the band at the time, you know, I asked her, I said, do you want to take this full time? And she agreed. So, you know, now she's up there with me. Wow. You know, and then it's pretty awesome, you know, to have that there. So taking someone that, you know, wasn't really into metal, I guess like kind of evolving them, but she still likes her hip hop and all that. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not. I like to get a few good, you know, metal songs. You know, it's not really my genre. I guess you could say. I don't know, but it's good. Yeah. It's good. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. Do you have any advice, I guess you could say, for those who maybe are newlyweds, or for those who are like first time, you know, parents? I mean, you've only been a father now for about 5 years, right? Yeah. But that's 5 years of experience.
Yeah. As far as marriage, you know, keep God first. You know, that was the advice that was given to us. You know, and as long as you keep God first, you know, that everything else will sort itself out. Yeah. Bills will always be there. Finances will always be there. Candace and I, we've had our shares of financial mistakes. You know, and now we finally got ourselves in an area to where, you know, not everyone is financially stable, but in a way we are, I guess you could say. You know, and to be able to provide for our kids, you know, and of course for one another, you know, I just consider that a huge blessing to be able to do that. And I was just telling Candace that the other day. You know, I was telling her, I remember working and having to put my card in the negatives just to, you know, put in fuel. Yeah. And, you know, having to stick out that negative bank account until next payroll. Yeah. And, you know, that now it's to, you know, I'm blessed, you know, to consider to where I could just top it off and, you know, and be okay. You know, and everything is I give it all to the Lord, you know, to credit, you know, for helping us. You know, and as far as parenting, you know, patience is big. Not just with the kids, but with everyone, you know. And when I started this manager position, it took me a long time I would say about 4 or 5 months to not bring my work home, and it was tough. It was hard because I've never been in this position.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been a manager, leader, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And, now I finally got, to the point to where, okay, I see my phone, emails come through. Well, that can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or, this can be dealt with later. And, that's something that I really, it was self-discipline on my part, because I saw how it was affecting Candace. I saw how it was affecting Yazzie. And of course the music, and the band. I was worried because, it felt like I just had no time. But, I remember the transportation director before me telling me, you got to make time. You got to make time for your family, your hobbies and all.
Yeah.
Work will always be here.
Yeah.
And, so with that mindset, now it kind of all sorted itself out. So, but with new parents, and everything, I mean, just be there, because that's what the kids want. They want you there, and we have a rule in my house to where, we have no phones at the table while we eat. And, even with TV, I try to enforce that, but, sometimes there's like a good episode of, Family Feud on or something that you just want to watch. And, but things like that, spending time as a family, kind of like talking about Yazzie, like, well, how was your day? Hearing what he has to say. And I know he has a tablet, and, but he has rules to it, and I know it's easy to just kind of like give that to them and just let them be on their own. But, with me, is like, I want them to be involved with our family in our home. So, things like that. That's kind of like the advice, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. And I like how you mentioned the idea of leadership, and I do kind of see that throughout your story of who you are as a person. As a teacher, as a father, as a band leader, as a transportation manager. I just see a trajectory of you going through this journey of being a leader. Yeah, and it's good. It's good. Moving forward, do you see yourself maintaining as a transportation manager, or do you see yourself maybe doing something a little different?
It's the Lord's will.
Lord's will?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as much as I love what I do, it can be taken any minute, any day.
Yeah.
And that's why each day I, try to do this job to the best I can, and it's a big responsibility, because not only am I dealing with, the 5 of my drivers, but, I got students that, are counting on the safety. Yeah. Parents that are relying on us, for safety. And it's a lot of pressure. Yeah. And coming from all directions, and but in a way, it's also rewarding. Yeah. And to be able to bring kids in to get their education, and to be able to get them home safely. And, that's how I see it too. Yeah. So, with the way the future plans, I do want to get back into school. Okay. Get some type of degree of some sort. Okay. And, I always was told, by my aunt, that you're never too old to get an education. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, that's kind of one of my mindsets that I have. Candace is already enrolled in her online courses. Okay. And, that's kind of what I want to do too. So, but yeah, as much as I love this job and want to keep doing it, it's up to you.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Let's see. Do I have anything else that I want to talk about? Do you have anything you want to talk about? Any questions for me?
Well, how have you been?
I'm doing okay. Okay. We got this podcast. I really like it. I'm, like you said, I'm taking it, putting in the Lord's hand. I'm not trying to rush in it too fast.
Anything's possible. Yeah. And I didn't get here by myself. And I learned this from working, other places. We used to make fun of people that used to say, I guy, I did this, I did that, you know, but to us, or to me, you know, it's never been like that. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's awesome that you have this, you know, kind of brings me back to my roots.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes that's needed. I don't know. There's so much. You know, there's so much craziness going on. You know, in today's world. You know, with the situation that happened last week, and you know, down in Utah, and everyone's so, you know, I guess divided. And I think that's why I go back to music so much, is because that's one thing kind of everyone has in common.
Yeah.
Whether it be country, or rock, metal, pop, whatever. You know, you don't think about the news.
Yeah.
Or you don't think about what happened. You know, it's kind of like you're in that moment.
I can't hear you.
I encourage everyone, especially the younger generation, to, put the phone down. Turn the TV off, do something. I've seen, a lot of kids be really great athletes, but get torn down by the phone and get torn down by socials, and that's kind of something I always told Logan too, and my sister, my sister's a sophomore, and it's so much of don't rely, on the socials or technology. It's good for what it is, but then again, it has its downfalls.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything's been, it's been a wild ride, and the crazy thing is that we're not done yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not by a long shot.
Yeah. So, and, like I said, it's good to see you. And I've never done, in-person podcasts. And I was teasing my family before I came. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be like Cat Williams and just expose everything about the Navajo Nation.
Going into the deep dive.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I know, about the tribe and, politics and all that I could say, but everything is done. And that's how I see it now. It's time to move forward and, see what happens. And that's the great thing, you don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, everything's good.
All right, cool. All right, well, I guess that concludes our episode. Thank you, Darius, for being on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, cool.
Cool.
Let my own blood. Here we stand. You're the sacred blood. Here we stand. Let my own blood.
Washington on the DNC Bobozni, Kodoe Nikana Chow, Nikonot Abaka Nature, Nitsila Nasti, Kato left deep Kadishki, Kingi, Hitzi got Ani Scott Kanacho, Kodoe Ya, Niche, Nasti Hitzi, Ka.